My name is Mia, and this is the story of a night I will never forget. A night that changed everything. 12 years ago, I lived in a quiet village surrounded by green hills and dirt roads. I was only 18, full of dreams, and just beginning to understand the world. There was a boy named Leon. He was 23, charming, and had a smile that made many girls in the village blush. I was one of them. Thought he was special. I believed in love. I believed in him. But my mother warned me. He's not who you think he is. My aunt said. Stay away from Leon. He brings trouble. I didn't listen. I was in love, or at least I thought I was. One Saturday, there was a small festival in the village square. Music played, lanterns danced in the wind, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. My friends and I planned to go. My mother didn't want me to. She said, "It's not safe. Stay home tonight." But I begged. I promised to stay with my friends, to come back early. That evening I wore my favorite blue dress. I remember standing in front of the mirror, smiling at my reflection, feeling like the world was full of possibilities. The party was simple but magical. There weren't many people at first, but slowly more arrived. The night became lively. Then Leon came. He wore a black jacket and that same confident smile. When our eyes met, my heart raced. He walked over, asked if I wanted to dance. He nodded. We danced under the stars. During the slow songs he held my hand. During the breaks we talked. He made me laugh. He made me forget the warnings. When the music faded and the lights dimmed, he said, "Let's go for a drive." Hesitated. Just for a moment. But then I nodded. Everyone knew his car. It was shiny, red, and fast. We drove around the village, the wind in my hair, the night air cool on my face. Felt alive. The stars sparkled above us. Everything felt like a dream. But dreams can turn dark. Leon turned off the main road and drove to a quiet place beyond the hills. There were no lights, no houses, only trees and shadows. I asked, "Where are we?" He smiled and said, "Just a peaceful spot. I like it here." Then he leaned closer. He tried to kiss me. I turned away. "Leon, I want to go home." He didn't listen. He grabbed my wrist. His touch didn't feel gentle anymore. Pulled away. "Stop." He frowned. "You're boring," he said coldly. Then he opened the car door and pushed me out. I landed on the ground. Dust filled my mouth. My knees scraped the stones. He drove away without looking back. I was alone. It was cold. It was dark. The road was empty. My home was miles away. My shoes were thin and not made for walking. But I walked. One step. Then another. My legs hurt. My heart felt heavy. My face was wet. Not from the cold but from silent tears. I walked 3 kilometers through that night, every shadow whispering my fears back to me. When I reached home, I opened the door slowly. My mother had fallen asleep in the chair, waiting for me. I went straight to my room, sat on the bed and cried. My heart was shattered. My dreams were broken. The boy I loved didn't love me back. He didn't even respect me. The next day I told my friends. Their faces fell. "He did that to me too," one said. "Me too," another whispered. I stared at them in disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me?" "We thought you knew," one replied. "Everyone knows about Leon." But I hadn't known. No one warned me clearly. I felt betrayed. Not just by Leon but by silence. That night changed something in me. I stopped waiting for love. I stopped dreaming about boys like Leon. I started thinking about my future. 2 years later I left the village. I moved to the city. It was noisy and fast, but I liked it. I found work in a small bookstore near the park. I loved the smell of old paper and ink. I talked to strangers, learned their stories. I built something for myself. Slowly but surely. One rainy evening, I stood under a tree without an umbrella. The street was quiet. Cars splashed through puddles. Then someone spoke. "Need help?" I looked up. A man stood beside me, holding a bright red umbrella. He was tall. His voice was gentle. His eyes were kind. He nodded. He walked with me to the bookstore. We talked about the rain, the city, the smell of books. His name was Daniel. He worked in an office nearby. Before he left, he smiled and asked, "Can I see you again?" I smiled back and said, "Maybe." The next day he returned. He bought a book, then another, and another. Soon he didn't come for the books anymore. He came for the conversations, laughter, the way we looked at each other and saw something real. He asked me out for coffee, said yes. He told me about his family, his younger sister, his dreams of traveling the world. I told him about my quiet village, about walking in the night. I didn't tell him about Leon. Not yet. But Daniel listened to everything I shared. And he never rushed me. Weeks turned into months. I began to trust again. Then one week he didn't come. Not Monday. Not Tuesday. I waited. My heart ached. Had he changed his mind? It rained again on the second Friday. And there he was, standing under the red umbrella, waiting for me. "My sister was sick," he explained. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you." I smiled through the rain. "I'm just glad you're here." We walked that evening under the umbrella, side by side, through wet streets and glowing lights. That walk felt like a promise. Now I'm 30. Daniel and I are married. We live in a small cottage with a garden behind the bookstore. Sometimes when it rains, we take the red umbrella and walk together. Just like that night. Do I think about Leon? Sometimes. But not with pain anymore. That night, the one where I walked alone, crying and scared, shaped me. Broke me, yes. But it also gave me strength. If it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have found this new life. I wouldn't have met Daniel. Sometimes, the darkest nights lead us to the brightest mornings. Believe that now. And I hope you do too. Have you ever walked through something painful, only to find something better waiting for you? What helped you keep walking? Share your story in the comments. Like the video if it touched your heart. And subscribe to AV-Flourish for more real, emotional English stories. You're not alone. You are stronger than you think. And your best chapter might be just one walk away.